This accent wall is going to be made from ordinary store-bought insulation foam, which can easily be cut with a knife. This method works really well. I found some quality gaffer tape on Amazon that has a nice matte black finish. You can also use standard wallpaper to finish the slats, including wood finishes that are surprisingly realistic. I also wanted a bit of tech into this build. I wanted addressable lighting and a smart switch to control my office and the accent wall. Please don't judge me, it's not always this messy. First thing is to clean up and paint the walls real quick. Regarding the project's budget, I'll provide a detailed breakdown of all essential tools and materials along with the optional upgrades I've selected. Stay tuned for this later in the video. Now off to the big box store to get all the materials I need. So I had to break down this 4x8 sheet out in the parking lot. Luckily I had a chunk of hardboard that will eventually be the background to this wall. It helped me cut a nice straight line. So the hardboard backer adds a little bit of cost, but I wanted the wall to be removable, so I opted for it. Otherwise you can just tape it and paint it basically. Here I am just measuring out the outlet location. I used a high gloss black paint to contrast the textured matte slats. After marking up the slot an appropriate clearance for the smart switch, I cut it out. Alternatively, you could use a jigsaw to do the same. Hindsight, I should have done this before doing this. Somehow I lost the footage of the first panel going up, but here it is. As I said before, I did this to make it removable, but I should have really just painted it. It would have been much easier. The factory edge in the foam has a tongue and groove. You'll just want to remove that before cutting the slats. Comment below if you would like to see other detailed plans. I can write up a post explaining more with dimensions and other helpful hints. While the smaller blades cut better, the larger 18mm style is more rigid, leading to a straighter cut. If you're careful enough, the smaller blade would do just fine, but make sure it is very, very sharp. Just please don't use this. I am going with 1-inch slats. It's up to you how wide you want them, but I found that 4-inch wide gaffer tape wraps around these very nicely. Just make sure you go nice and slow and it'll come out looking great. And here's the proposed layout, just so you get an idea. The top panel and the bottom panel, but I actually only just used the top. You can use a variety of different cutting methods for the slats. For time's sake, I'm probably going to go with the table saw route. So next up, you'll need a utility knife and your desired colored tape or wallpaper. Link in the description for the materials I have tried thus far. Here I have a slat with black gaffer tape on it. So what I did was align the back side of my slat about a ½ inch away from the sides and the end of the tape. Also make sure it's nice and parallel to what you're sticking it to. I found that the best method is to roll the foam slats around the tape, then smooth out any creases with your fingers. Most of the materials I have used are really forgiving as far as creases and bumps go. I am hoping to do a lot more projects like this, so anything to help goes a really long way, including the shameless like and subscribe. Creasing the top and bottom like this works perfect, as long as you fold the front face last. This eventually butts up against your top trim piece, holding it together. Here I am making a top and bottom trim out of wood. I needed to increase the thickness of the wood, so I got a cheap piece of plywood, and as you'll see later, I nailed it together. This step was only necessary because I couldn't get the 4x8 sheet of foam in my sedan. This would have required me to cut a long thin strip about 8 feet wide, and I knew it would not be straight. Otherwise I would have simply cut the top and bottom trim out of foam, then used the remaining foam for the slats. And then the same process for the top and bottom piece. Before I began the final assembly, I did the smart switch wiring and installed that. Just cleaning up with a rag before applying the slats. And here I am measuring out a few slats in to start because I had to cut a few pieces after the fact to go around the light switch, but I wanted to do those at the end. See? Installation is a breeze once you have the first slat nice and vertical. All you need to do is use another slat to get the separation. That is, of course, you have 1-inch slats and 1-inch spacing. Here is where I messed up on the bottom part. I really wanted to use the wood to make it look nicer, but I messed up and ran out of tape. Here I wanted to amp it up with some addressable lighting on the top. And again, I'll put links in the description for all parts of the electronic portion of this build, including options for solderless setups, making it easy. Now I just need to heat shrink the tubing on so no wires are exposed, and then I'll route the wire all the way back to the controller. So I have 12 volt power coming into a DC jack. That splits off to LED lights and the step down converter to power an ESP32 board equipped with WLED. It's an easy to use and install open source program to control lighting like this. Check down in the description for more information. Also comment below if you'd like to see more content on this. This setup is solderless and took no time at all to install. I then designed and printed a simple enclosure on my 3D printer to hold it all, but there are also many store-bought options available. And finally, the cost breakdown. The 4x8 foot of foam sheet was $26. The matte black gaffer tape was $18. The adhesive I had on hand, but you can get it for around $12. The wood backer and top trim, $38. And finally, other miscellaneous, $15. For a total of around $109. And this is, of course, excluding the electronics portion, which I'll have down in the description. And now for some optimization, accounting for things you may already have on hand. I would have gone with 1/2 inch thick foam, saving $14. Finding better prices on the gaffer tape, maybe in stores. The adhesive bought on AliExpress, or even if you have it on hand. And then simply painting the back wall instead of using a backer board. You'll likely already have most of the required tools on hand, so you'll save on that. Factoring all of this, a total of $41, which is pretty damn good in my opinion. And without further ado, and that's it. Thank you so much for watching. Stay tuned for the next video in this series.